Hello and welcome to Roll for Topic, a roundtable discussion about topics related to running role-playing games. I'm Chris Salzman.
And I'm Andy Rao.
Andy, just to show you how cool I am, I opened up my laptop to start recording this and realized that I had the Wikipedia page for the Eternal Champion pulled up from the Moorcock's Elric and other multiverse stuff. Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah, and I think I do have you to blame because you had posted in our Discord that they are Goodman Games just bought the Elric exclamation point license
Yes.
license. Yeah, because I guess there was an old game based on the Elric novels. And yeah, so we were all kind of speculating what they were going to do with it. And so of course I had to go brush up on my Eternal Champion knowledge.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty big news.
Hmm.
And I did read that they're releasing that jointly for their Dungeon Crawl Classics and 5e. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, to me, it's like, like as we're kind of strip mining any IP from the olden days to make, various HBO series and stuff, I'm surprised that there has not been a swing for some sort of big budget Elric like
yeah.
adaptation. Because it's like, I mean, it would be pretty edgy. Like it's pretty, he's a giant edgelord, but like I think there's a lot of like fun stuff in those books. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, granted, Elric has never been Lord of the Rings popular,
Hmm.
but I would say it has had a consistent, like, lower tier level of interest that has just never gone away and has stayed
Yeah.
quietly influential.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird. Do you think that Game of Thrones and stuff we're all tapped out of like grim dark fantasy, or do you think there's space for it?
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, I am not a TV executive. I would have to imagine there's always capacity for people to be depressed about their fantasy out there.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, like Game of Thrones, I bounced off of very hard. It's just kind of not for me. But I'm led to believe that there's like some sort of spinoff that's happening right now that people are enjoying quite a bit. But I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, I think just like I mean, to me, like those novels really embody this sort of like dark fantasy approach to world building that I think just like lends itself well to these fantastic images. Right.
Yeah.
I just think about like, I mean, even like the court of Melnibity. We're not going to get into the argument about how to pronounce that, but like
Yeah. Yes.
Elric's court, like, they've just like got all these like, people who are basically like doomed to just like sing, right? Like up in the rafters and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just like there's all this like stuff that I think would play really well on screen. Like play well is in that like, oh, like this is a really cool and evocative place and setting and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the right, a movie approach to Elric would be a really colorful, really visually extravagant experience in a
Hmm.
way that, your Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and Wheel of Times are not,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
My mind goes like to do it right. I'm reaching for directors that have a flair for kind of out there fantasy like Guillermo del Toro. I'm not saying
Yeah, yeah.
his style is quite the right match for Elric, but you would need like kind of an outsider approach.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, because I think it could be pretty drab if given, given to kind of the wrong director.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's setting aside maybe like the movie adaptation a little bit. Like one thing that we were talking about in Discord when you brought it up was just like you don't if you're gonna play. I think like you're doing a movie of that. Sure, yeah, you want to follow Elric and his exploits. If you're playing a tabletop game, you probably don't want to be Elric in that universe, right? Like you want to
Mm.
be like, yeah, some sort of side quest or like some sort of like side character, right, in that universe. Because I think like, yeah, it's almost like he's almost like too powerful. There's almost too much plot armor or something around him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, like thinking about it set in the DCC universe, right? Like, yeah, like Elric would be some sort of like he'd be the big bad guy, or yeah, or some sort of patron or something like that versus versus the person that you're playing.
My mind goes to the old Middle Earth role playing game from
Mm-hmm.
the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always felt that showed an approach to licensed settings, especially licensed settings that already have big heroes who already told the biggest story that's possible in the setting.
Mm-hmm.
It's an approach that licensed games like the Dune or the Alien RPGs don't do today. And that is that game was more interested in like, hey, would you like to play D&D, but you would like to explore with the D&D game you already know the setting of Middle Earth. It was
Mm-hmm.
not saying, "Hey, do you want to be Frodo and Sam and
Yeah.
Aragorn going on an epic quest?" And the game you design is really different if your game is going to emulate you are Elric. You're essentially invincible.
Mm-hmm.
You're this force of, primordial chaos just careening through the world, right?
Yeah.
That's a one type of game. Another type of game is like, oh yeah, Elric is out there somewhere. You are everybody else in this setting. Like
Yeah.
you're the regular people that have to go to work and deal
Mm-hmm.
with the bandit problem down the road.
Yep.
And maybe every now and then you catch like a distant glimpse of what Elric and his buddies are up to, but
Yeah.
this isn't you. So I'm curious what they do with it because,
Yeah.
as the DCC world is very much like you're a level 0 peasant. You have 3 hit
Yeah.
points. If a cat scratches you, that you're toast.
Yes. Yeah.
That's very different than that's very different than Alec.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I mean, yeah, it's almost the more interesting role to play is, I mean, I feel like, is it Elric that has, I feel like they have these like gigantic golden warships that they like
Yes.
made out of
Hmm.
gold, right? It'd be
Yes.
fun to be like, yeah, play a party of like the shipsmiths, right? Like the people making those. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
And even those, I think they're giant, like floating golden pyramids.
Yes.
Like they're
Yeah.
not like
It's
normal
something,
ships.
it's something absolutely
So
absurd.
like
Yes.
that
Yeah.
movie done faithfully and right would be wild. Like
Yeah.
wouldn't
Cause
it?
you,
Anyway.
yeah, every time there'd be a new scene, you'd be like, no, surely that's not. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
So here's a gaming question about this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So congrats to Goodman Games for getting the license. I'm glad to see Elric represented in the world of RPGs.
Hmm.
That said, Elric has already massively influenced a lot of RPGs. It's probably the most important influence on Dungeons and Dragons itself, going back to the early editions in particular, and that the stuff cited in Appendix N, it's clear Gygax had a real love for Moorcock's writing,
Hmm.
more so than Tolkien and stuff. And since then, we've had this, old school revival or renaissance, and there's approximately 342 million role playing games out there
Yeah. Yeah.
that swing for this gonzo vibe that the world of Elric has.
Yeah.
So this isn't me being snarky about an Elric RPG, but it is a legitimate question. We are already doing
Hmm.
Elric in RPGs. Is there something to you like what would make you buy the Elric RPG when on your shelf you probably have 15 games that are explicitly inspired by Elric and explicitly trying to emulate some aspect of, Moorcock's worlds? It's a non-snarky question. What would make you pick up that game?
That is a super good question. I mean, I think for me, and this gets back to something that, the Splat Book podcast used to talk about a lot, and like and John Corey does in particular, about like when you're playing a game, you're really trying to play sort of a genre of fiction. Like you're all sort of like agreeing, like, oh, I want to play this kind of game, um, this kind of game together. So I think for me, like picking up that like an Elric RPG, like I would love to get you and John and like someone else who's read way too many Moorcock books, like get
Yeah.
them all together and like say like, oh, we are going to play and like it's going to be ridiculous. Like you are going to at some point, have to like pledge your fealty to some sort of like chaos god, and like there's going to
Yes.
be a talking sword that's like cursed and like just like all those sort of like those greatest hits of, to me, the stuff that's really interesting about Elric and like the Eternal Champion, right? You're gonna have like we'll have Elric and there'll be some sort of like companion and like all that sort of stuff where it's just like, yeah, you can get that other places, but I think that the combination of all of that and then also getting to kind of play your own version of like one of those stories, because like I mean Moorcock talked about this too, but like those books are written at a cadence, right? Like there's a pure formula that he's following for those, and he can crank them out in like a week, right? Like there, it's
Yeah.
not like it's like a comforting. It's almost like I don't know, like a serialized television show, right? It's like there
Hmm.
is that cadence to it, and like that's honestly how I'd probably even structure a short campaign of it. Just like we're just gonna kind of follow the arc of like one of these books, right? Where it's a few short stories sort of strung together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think for me, like that would be the draw of it. Like, can that system really capture the feel of reading one of these things in like an afternoon, right? When you're just like kind of tearing through it, and it's just like, oh, let's see the wacky exploits that Elric gets up to. we know he's not going to die. He's always going to be close to death, but like he's going to get out of it in the end.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. And obviously, I mean, there's a lot of personal taste involved here, but what
Hmm.
I kind of hear you saying is we don't want a game that's like, here's the stats for all of the places and people in
Oh yeah.
Elric's world.
No, I don't
We
care
want
about
a
that.
game that captures the feeling we had when we were reading those stories.
Hmm.
So all props. I love Goodman Games. They're a great company. I'm sure their book's going to be lovely and look great.
Yeah.
However, if it is pretty much just like, hey, now you can play 5e or DCC, but you're in
Yeah.
the world of Elric, to me, I don't want to say it's a missed opportunity, but that's not the way it would get me excited about buying it, I
Hmm.
guess. I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah. Same
about
here.
this with, I've run the Alien RPG a bunch, and why did I spend 50 or whatever? It's probably like
It was
$80
more
now.
than $50. Yeah.
Yeah, I just lowballed it in case my
Yeah.
wife is listening to this
Yeah.
podcast. Why did I spend all that money on that Kickstarter when I have in my house like literally 15 games that I
Yeah.
wouldn't even need to change any details to run Alien? I could just pick them up and run Alien, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
straight. They probably have actual stats for like an off-brand
Yeah.
Alien in the bestiary section. Like,
Yeah.
but I did. I picked up the Alien games and I had a blast playing Alien, and I guess I probably would have had a blast to playing the exact same scenario with Mothership or
Hmm.
Traveler or something, but I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, yeah, I mean, like having played that with you, I mean, I think that system tried to do something unique with it, right? And tried to match like the cinematic feel of it, which like that's sort of the core essence of like what I don't know, what's interesting, like what makes you go see the next Alien movie, right? It's like,
Yeah.
like, I mean, like I saw like Alien Romulus, right, in the theaters like recently. It's like
Yeah.
great time, great movie, but like, functionally the story beats were pretty similar to all the other, like all the other
Yeah.
good Alien movies. But it's like, yeah, like that's what I want to like. You kind of want to bask in that a little bit, It's like, and
Yeah.
if it wasn't called Alien Romulus, it was called something else. Like it just like it wouldn't hit quite the same, and
Yeah.
maybe that's really petty, and like maybe it's just like, oh well, we're just so used to identifying with brands that you can't escape it. But I think there is also just something like a, oh yeah, like this is, I don't know, this is comforting comforting,
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
is like entertaining in a way. Yeah.
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 By the way, I've talked to the person you saw Alien Romulus with, and he
Yeah.
has a funny story about watching it with you.
Okay.
He thought you had never seen an
Yes.
Alien movie
I
before.
remember this.
So
Yes. Yeah.
he told me he was like leaning over and whispering in your ear to explain
Yep.
all of the mechanics of the Alien to you, thinking you had. So
Yeah.
how long did that go on before you were like, I've actually
it,
seen this
it
before?
wasn't too bad, but there was a one where he was like, that's the Nostromo. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, I remember that bit.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I mean, yeah, we will, be watching that space for the Elric RPG, because I think that is one that I might grab just for pure nostalgia reasons.
Yeah, and
um.
the right art and stuff in that book might
Yeah.
make it a like good coffee table type of purchase. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to bring up, because I know we're gonna have to cut it off pretty soon, because we got kind of we're both cramming this in between some meetings and stuff. But so I read and finished the book The Prestige by
Oh
Christopher,
yeah,
yeah, Priest, I think. Yeah. It was just absolutely incredible. I mean, it's like, of course I'm thinking about it, it's somewhat in terms of gaming, but also just like from the standpoint of like a really good, I guess I would call it a sci-fi, maybe a fantasy
hmm
novel, just phenomenal. Like maybe one of my all-time books
hey,
books I've
that's
ever
so
read. Yeah.
lovely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic book. I'm so glad you liked it.
Yeah, yeah, it was really cool. I mean, the structure of it is really fascinating. Yeah, and just the story itself too. It's like, yeah, the movie is great. Like the movie's really good. The book is leaps and bounds better. Like, and like
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
that is quite a feat, I think, to pull off. Yeah, I mean, it's a book that is about sort of magic and magicians and stuff, like in the real world. Right, and like how you might pull off these different tricks, and there's just a lot of like, deep sort of ruminations about like, like what makes a trick, and like all of that.
hmm
Yeah, so of course, I mean, it has me thinking about like, magic in our like magic systems that you use in tabletop games too. It's like,
Hmm.
I don't know, like I I think a lot about, I mean, like most people who've read the Lord of the Rings, it's like, like Gandalf has like such immense power, but like he never uses it, right? You're just always like, well, why doesn't he just cast more more
Yeah, yeah.
spells and stuff? But I mean, also like then like I don't know, like reading this book about magicians and stuff, you're just like, it doesn't take a lot to like feel otherworldly, right? Like, and like it's not
Hmm.
something you necessarily would need some sort of like actual magic to do to do in some ways. It's just like it's an understanding of the process and people's perception and things like that. Yeah. Anyway, all that to say, I mean, I think the next time I play a game where there's prestidigitation is available to you as like little like sleight of hand tricks and stuff, it's like it really just has me sort of thinking about that in a different way.
You might find it interesting to go check out the old White Wolf game from the 90s, Mage the Ascension.
Ooh, okay.
It's not like Prestige the RPG in any
Mhm.
way, but it's all about doing magic in a modern world of
Mhm.
disbelief
Yeah.
and disguising your magic as something other than magic.
Ooh,
It's
yeah.
not exactly the theme of the Prestige, but
Yeah.
if you haven't looked at that, it is kind of a classic RPG.
Yeah.
It's I think I don't know if it's still around anymore or not, but it is one of the more interesting spins on like an RPG that thinks about magic in the modern world a little bit more than like, hey, we're playing D&D except it's 1995,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, you should. I mean, we can talk about this off the air, but you should read more Christopher Priest if you
Yeah.
like that much. You have. It's great news because he has a pretty big body of work, and I've
Mhm.
never read one I didn't enjoy. So,
Yeah, I did note when I looked up his Wikipedia page. I think he wrote the Short Circuit novelization as
oh,
well.
did he really?
Yeah,
That's
he's
incredible.
got a couple of those projects sort of in the back of his
That's
back of his
I
like
love learning
yeah
that stuff.
yeah
That reminds me of learning that Jeff Vandermeer, he wrote the
yeah oh
Area
yeah
X novel, and some of my other I love his work.
hmm
Yeah, he wrote a Predator novelization
awesome
back like in his
yeah
early career, and
yeah
he said, he mostly was just writing a straight Predator book because
yeah
he's being paid some tiny amount of money to do.
yeah
But he posted some quote. It was like just out of this weird segment that if you had been reading it as a Predator fan, you'd be like, what's happening? Like, yeah. Anyway,
yes, that's awesome. I love it. Yeah. Cool. All right. So right before we wrap up, I did
yeah.
want to ask you about your Band of Blades game. So I think it might have been last time or the time before we talked about you putting together this Band of Blades game. What's going on with that?
Yeah, well, what's going on with that is I am in a place that I hope that you and our listeners can relate to, which is
Mm,
uh, like GMing limbo.
yeah.
So here is where you and I have talked about the difficulties of scheduling games with adults, and it took quite a while, months, not weeks, to set up a first game date for
Mhm.
Band of Blades.
Yes.
That's fine. That's great. Everyone's super busy. I get it.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how frustrating it was that I had to be the one to say,
Oh
I can't
no.
make this date that we all spent two
Yes.
and a half months like wrangling with our calendars to make.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a family thing come up that required travel, and
Yeah.
it was just impossible for me to make it. That was a week or so ago, and I just haven't figured out how to reach out. I haven't emailed the group yet to say I hope that I didn't just torpedo the
I know.
momentum.
Oh, I'm sure you didn't. People
And I
understand.
also hope that this doesn't mean we won't be able to meet till like September or something
Yeah.
like that, because
Yeah.
so I need to email everyone. I mean, I apologize that I had to call off the game. I need to email everyone and say, hey, I would love to not let my
Mhm.
scheduling snafus screw up our momentum. So
Yeah.
I don't
That's a
know.
particular kind of like awful feeling of like there's finally a date and then you have to you have to
And then
cancel
I
it.
was
Yeah.
the one, I know, because
Yeah.
I like every GM, I've thought all sorts of, I've rolled my eyes at players that are hard to schedule and stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
it just, I felt like I had to
It can
eat a
happen to
big,
you. Yeah.
a heaping helping of humble pie. I guess, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the problem. It was me. So,
Yes. Yeah. I suspect it'll be okay. Yeah. People are generally
I think so too. And
yeah.
I haven't touched the book. I mean, I had been spending a lot of time in the book and planning,
Mm,
and I haven't touched it since I had to cancel. So
mm,
I need to get over myself a little bit. And like,
mm.
if I can't recapture the momentum, I can't ask my players to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's
that'll be the project for my, the rest of this week.
yeah,
So
totally. I mean, then it is a project. I think like we've talked about in the past, and I become more and more convinced about this that there's scheduling is really like a three-part process usually of like
hmm,
you have to decide who is interested in scheduling the thing. And then you have to have a conversation about the first date that you're going to pick, and then there's the second the second date when someone has to cancel, and
yes,
like recognizing that has made me a lot calmer about scheduling in general. Like yeah, we're kind of working on some of our summer plans too, and we ran into this exact thing of like like so we'd finally picked a date, gotten everything squared away, and then someone's like like actually I need to change it, right? And like this is for like a trip, right? So it's like
yeah.
it's a little harder, but I'm like, you know what, it's fine, like that's just it's part of life.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. I was doing things smarter this time than I have in the past.
Hmm.
Like, so this time I had a policy set of like how many people can be missing
Mm.
before we call off a game, because I
Yeah,
know
nice.
I know people will get sick, or that
Yeah,
something comes up and they'll email an hour before and say, I'm sorry, I can't make it.
yeah,
I've been the person doing that email, so I get it. But I was all set. I had, I even like, this is going to be our policy. This is how many blah, blah, blah. It's going to be so good. It's
yeah,
going to
yeah,
happen. Anyway,
yeah,
so maybe that will still happen. And you can ask me on the next episode. If I haven't gotten this sorted out by our next episode, you can scold me
yes,
from one
yeah.
GM to the other on air. So
What we'll do on air is make you pull up your email and send that.
that's right.
Yeah,
We'll actually call out from the podcast to my
yeah,
players and try to sort this out.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, all right. Well, we got to wrap it up, but yeah, thanks, Andy. This has been good. You let's see. Yeah, you can go listen to Andy with John Corey over on Zombie Strains. Go find that. That's good. I think let's see what John just mentioned somewhere that you guys are doing. Is it Night of the Living Dead
It
soon?
is. So, yeah,
Yeah,
this is our biggest milestone so far
yeah.
with the Zombie Streams podcast. We're about 50 or 60 movies in,
Hmm.
about 30 years into the history of zombie films. And we are finally at really the movie that inspired us to do this, which is Night of the Living Dead. So,
Wow.
when this comes out, I think you'll have a week or two, and then our Night of the Living Dead episode will land. So,
That's super cool. And I just want to note for everybody that the the movie you will have done before that is can't even get up there is Dr. Satan versus Black Magic.
yes. And
So just to give you a sense of what was happening in the late
I was
1960s.
I was emailing a friend recently, and I was telling him that Zombie Strains is going well, and I said, but I will say that the number of bad movies I've seen in the last year and a half has ruined my any ability I have to gauge the quality of a film. Like it's like so.
Yeah. Night of the
Uh,
Living Dead is probably just like it feels like a cinematic masterpiece, which I mean it's good, but yeah.
well, it has a Criterion Collection
Yeah.
release. I think this is. It might be the second movie we've watched in 30 years of zombie cinema. Anyway, but
That's wonderful.
you didn't fire up this podcast to hear me talk about
Yeah, no,
zombies. So
that's good. Yeah, please go check out Zombie Strains. But yeah, okay, that will do it for us. I've been Chris Salzman,
I've been Andy Rao.
and remember, if your players are having fun, you're a great GM.